Welcome back to my channel, everyone. Today's video is a review of The Unanswered Questions by Lauren Folter. Can we just appreciate that gorgeous cover first of all? Like, I love it. I love the green, like it's so beautiful. The Unanswered Questions is a sci-fi book. It's the first book in a series, so Lauren is currently working on the second book and I'm expecting that to be out fairly soon. I know that she's going over edits and things, which that's really exciting. I'll get into the positives and negatives and things, but I just want to say that it's sci-fi and sci-fi isn't really like my favorite, so it wasn't the quickest read for me just because it's not really a genre that I generally read or that I really enjoy, but that doesn't really affect Lauren's writing at all or her story at all. That's just, you know, my opinion. So anyway, let's get into the positives about this book. I just wanted to say that I was really impressed with how well Lauren did keeping the story moving and keeping it interesting. I mean, look, this book is pretty big. It's over 400 pages. The print is not huge, you know, so it's 400 pages with smaller print, and I thought that was incredible. I think it's really incredible how she managed to take this story and not only make it into a series, but then make the first book like so long without making it boring. It was fast-paced, there was lots of action, always something going on. It didn't drag or anything. So I thought that was really impressive. So I thought the prologue was a really great hook. I had heard a lot about the character that is featured in the prologue, Silas. I'd heard a lot about him already, but this just made me so much more intrigued to learn more about him in the book. And it really was just like a fascinating prologue. It was a really great hook. It starts with some action, which is great because I love action. So that was a great thing throughout the entire book, was just how much action there was and that there was always something new happening. That's a definite plus for me. The story was definitely unique, definitely different. Lauren created an incredible world with some really like complex features to it, and it was really interesting to learn about those, and it was really cool to keep finding out little bits as you went along. But yeah, it was a really complex world and I did really appreciate that, and it just shows that Lauren put, you know, a lot of time and thought into this book. So there was a lot of mystery surrounding Silas in the beginning of the book, and that was great because, as I said, I'd heard about him but didn't know a lot, so it was really cool to like have more things that were kind of strange or mysterious happening, and you just keep wondering like, what is up with this character? He was the only one that I had really heard about. I mean, I guess Nikki as well, but Silas I had heard a lot about, so I was really interested to just learn about him and find out what role he plays in the story. So that was really cool to see in the beginning, just like so many more questions popping up about him. I did love all the characters. I think they were very unique. Some of them were shy, whereas some of them were like more outgoing and funny, and they were just all very unique. They had their own strengths and weaknesses, and sometimes they clashed, sometimes they worked well together, so that was a really fun thing to see. There are several main characters, so it was just really interesting to get to know so many of them, and you do get to know them quite well. It was a little bit confusing at first, but not bad actually, because they are all so different that you don't mix them up too much. It's pretty easy to tell who's who. I will say that I still don't have their appearances down 100%. I think I just got an idea in my head of what certain characters looked like, and it's completely off. I don't know how that's how they ended up looking in my mind, but that is how they look in my mind now. Like, I know that how I pictured Ray was very wrong throughout like most of the book, and so I actually checked out Lauren's Instagram page because she does a lot of drawings of her characters, and so I went through those and I was like, oh, that's what they're supposed to look like. Like, how did I get this so messed up? I don't know what it was. It was only a couple of them. Most of them I did really know what they looked like. I think it was more the boys. So like Ray and Cole especially, maybe Lincoln too. I don't know. I had the wrong idea of what they looked like in my head, but I did really enjoy all of them. Ray was my favorite character. As always, I don't want to give anything away in the books, so I'm not going to say too much about everybody and like what happens to them or just what goes on in the book, but Ray was my favorite. I think partially because he reminded me of my character Ben. He's just like very sarcastic and goofy, and I loved him. I really did. That's my favorite kind of character, is the sarcastic one, the comedic relief. So I loved Ray all throughout it. Yeah, I really did. I really love what she did with him as well. That was towards the end of the book, it got really interesting. His story just kind of took like a crazy arc that you weren't expecting, which a couple of them did. That's another great thing that she did in this book. She just constantly keeps you guessing or throws things in that you were not expecting at all, and it completely changes a lot of things about the characters and about the story, but it was really awesome. But yeah, Ray was definitely my favorite. Now, this doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the story or with the writing, but the chapters were shorter again, which, you know, I appreciate. It helped me to read more because I can tell myself, okay, just one more chapter because the chapter's only like 5 pages long or something. I think at the beginning they were a little bit shorter, and then towards like the middle and the end of the book they got to be more like 10 pages or something. But just a comment in case that's something that affects how you read as well, because for me it definitely does. When a book has shorter chapters, I tend to get through it faster, and when it has longer chapters, it takes me longer because sitting down to read a 20-page chapter is a huge commitment for me, whereas when they're like 5 pages, I can commit to that really easily. I can be like, okay, yeah, that'll be like 10 minutes of reading. But anyway, I think in the beginning at least the chapters were shorter, which was nice. I appreciate that. The title of the book, The Unanswered Questions, is very fitting because there are so many unanswered questions throughout the book. Just constantly, like, you're coming up with more questions and more things you want to know, and the characters have questions, and so that was really cool. And several of the questions do get answered by the end of the book, but there are still plenty left unanswered, which pushes you to want to read the next book. So I think that's a great way to write series like this, is to, you know, tie up some things, tie up the things that you have to for that book to feel completed, but you can't tie up everything because you have to give your readers something to look forward to in the next book. So I definitely am intrigued about the next book when it comes out. When I have the money to buy more books, I will definitely buy it and read it and see what happens, because there is still plenty to be answered and there's still plenty that can happen in the book or in the series. So the title is just very fitting. I thought that was pretty cool. And Lauren also worked it in a couple places, like characters specifically saying that these questions, that they're, you know, unanswered questions or questions that you're going to need to answer. So that was really cool. There are 2 instances in my mind where that happened. I didn't mark down the page number, I should have, but I thought that was really cool as well. I like it when a title gets incorporated into a book, so that was cool. And I already said that Lauren would throw twists in sometimes, and I'm just gonna mention this again because I also wrote down in my notes that I wrote down one of them and then said that I wasn't sure I trusted it yet, and that's something else she did. She would give a twist, and then you weren't really sure if you should trust it or if something else was going on, and so not only are you surprised to learn this new thing about a character or about something that developed in the story, but you're also not really sure you can trust it yet. So that was really cool because it just leaves you waiting to find out more about whatever that reveal was, whatever that twist was. So I think that was well done as well. So the twist that I was referencing was something that happens to a character. I'm not going to say who because I don't want to give it away, but something that you find out about a character that kind of puts them on the other side of things. And that's kind of why I wasn't sure I trusted it, because I was like, I don't want that character to now be on the other side of things. And I don't know that I trust that they are. But then towards the end, there was a chapter from this character's perspective, and it was really cool to get a look into their head and to see what they're thinking and how they feel about what's happening and what's happened to them. So I really did appreciate the chapters from everybody's perspective. I think I really do love books that have several points of view because it does leave a lot of room for intrigue. You know, you can reveal something about a character and then move on to a different character for a chapter or 2 and then come back to that one. And it really, I think it's a great way to keep readers interested, to keep them reading. You know, you can't put the book down until you find out the answer to this question, but you have to wait until you get back to that character's perspective, and it's something that I really do love. I love doing it in my own books too, so that was, you know, another plus for me, that there are so many different perspectives and that you get to see into everybody's head, and I think it was very well done. So since this is a series, the end of the book didn't wrap up everything. It didn't, you know, complete the story because you have to have more for the other books. It did wrap up some things, but the character's journey is not complete yet. So I am very eager for the next book. Can't wait to find out what happens. But the last chapter of this book was just so sweet. I really, really loved it. I love that Lauren ended it this way because it would have been really easy to have ended it with the previous chapter and just kind of left it there. But I love that she added this final chapter. It was just so sweet to see all the characters together, and I really did love that last chapter. It had me smiling a lot. So yeah, a super, super sweet ending. I guess not my favorite part of the book, but definitely one of my favorite parts was that final chapter. It was just so cute. I loved it. Okay, so that's a lot of positives. I did have a lot of positives about this book, and I had a lot to say about it as well because it is so long and there's so much going on. It's not just, you know, it doesn't just drag. It's not like a long book with one little storyline that just drags and you want it to be over. It's a long book with a lot of things going on and a lot of action and a lot of things to talk about. So yeah, those were a lot of positives, but now we have to get into the negatives. So the first negative I wrote down pretty much as soon as I had opened the book, because I've been reading books that have, I guess, pretty large print. Like, I hadn't noticed that the print was super large. I guess just the past few books that I've read have had larger print. So when I first opened this book, the print seemed very small to me, and that was kind of an instant negative just because I wasn't used to it. And it just makes each page a little bit longer, you know, as you're reading. When you have something with large print, you can get through a page pretty quickly. When the print's smaller, it takes longer. That's just how it goes. And I'm a slow reader anyway, so to have the print so small and also have the book so long kind of made it really intimidating for me, I guess. But I quickly got used to it. Like, I didn't even notice it after the first few chapters. It was something that was a huge change for me, so it was super obvious. But then as I read, I didn't notice that it was super small. It didn't make it hard to read. So it's not so tiny that you can't read it. It's just, I think, a little bit smaller than most books. So that was just a negative for me, but not a huge one. And like I said, I didn't even think about it after the first few chapters. Now, I know that I have this negative for a lot of books that I read, and as I've said many times before, I'm not a big reader, so I am really, really picky about the books that I read. I want them to, I want certain things from them. I want certain things from the story, from the characters, from the plot, you know, I want certain things, but I also want certain things from the writing. Or more like, I don't want to see certain things in the writing, I guess. And so I have said with a couple books that the writing kind of made it a little bit harder for me to get through, and that was true with this book as well, but certain aspects of it. Let me just say, first of all, that I think that Lauren has a lot of talent and a lot of skill and a lot of potential as a writer. There were certain parts of the book that were just written so incredibly well, certain pieces of description or like a look into how a character is feeling, and they were just written exceptionally well. And that kind of blew me away. Like, it was great. It was so impressive. So I think she really does have a lot of potential as a writer. But something that I would like to see improved in future books, and again, this is just my opinion, maybe I'm totally wrong, maybe she wrote the book like this on purpose, I don't know. This is just my opinion. I would like to see in future books, or in future writing, see her vary her sentences a little bit more. And again, I know this is something that I say about a lot of books, but it is a huge pet peeve of mine, which is why, again, I say it's just my opinion, and it might not be something that's really wrong with the writing. It's just a pet peeve of mine. I don't like reading books where the sentences, like, always start with, you know, a subject and a verb, and then the phrases after. I think good writing is mixed up a little bit, where, you know, of course you're gonna have some sentences that are like, Sam walked the dog, okay, just as an example. They just start like that, and you might have some more of the sentence afterwards, but they start with that subject and verb and the action. For me, I like it when that's mixed up. You have some sentences like that, but you also have sentences that start with a phrase, like a gerund phrase or something. Like, though this was happening, blah, 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 whatever the rest of the sentence is. And you don't just start with subject verb, you start with something else. You start with a clause or a phrase. And that just helps to break the reading up for me a little bit. It's not so repetitive, because to me it kind of feels repetitive when the sentences all start the same way. Along these same lines, I think it's good writing to vary your sentence length as well. I know some people don't like long sentences, but I think if a sentence is put together well, it can be really long. You know, it can be your whole paragraph if it's put together well and doesn't feel like a run-on sentence, or it doesn't feel like it's one sentence. Sometimes sentences like that can feel like there's several sentences, and then you look back and realize that it was just one sentence that was written really well. But you don't want to do that all the time. You also want to have some shorter sentences. So I think that Lauren did a really good job varying her sentence length. I just think that she could improve by varying her sentence structure. Again, it's a pet peeve of mine, And it came up in this book again. It's come up in a couple other books that I've read. Could be nothing wrong. And I know that there are times when you want to write the way that she wrote. You want to have sentences that are a little bit choppier. They all have the same structure. And it's a tool to use to make the action seem more exciting. I don't know how to say this exactly, but it's a way to write action. And I know that it is a tool and it's a specific way to write certain scenes, but in my opinion, a whole book should not be that way. Even if it's a book that is as action-packed as this book is, I still think it would have been nice to have seen the sentence structure varied a little bit more. I'm not trying to like harp on this point or anything, because I really do think that the book was amazing and that Lauren did a great job and that she has a lot of potential. And I do think that there were some really amazing parts of the book and really amazing sentences and descriptions and things. I do think there were super amazing parts of her writing. I just want to make it clear what I'm thinking about this and where I'm coming from. And again, like I said, I know that it is a technique. That's the word, not tool. I know that it's a technique in writing, and that's why I'm saying that this is just my opinion and it's just a pet peeve, and maybe Lauren meant to write it this way, and so I don't want to say that it's something that's wrong with the book. It's just, in my opinion, a negative. Okay, have I made that clear enough? I don't want to discourage anybody. I don't want to discourage Lauren, especially because I think she should be super, super proud of this book. I really think that she should. She's a young writer. She's self-published it. It's incredible. It's an incredible story with incredible characters, and I think she should be really, really proud. So I don't want to discourage anybody. I want to be honest and give my honest opinion. So that's my whole honest opinion. I will say something about this specific copy and about her earlier copies. I know that Lauren has hired an editor to do a revision of the book, and I think any books that you purchase now have been edited and revised. But I am really, really happy to have this copy. I pre-ordered this one, so it's like one of her, it's the earliest version that was released. And there are formatting issues and there are, spelling issues or typos. But I'm really happy to have this because eventually, as Lauren grows as a writer and as she improves, because I've said it before and I'll say it again, writing is a field in which you are always going to improve. You can always learn something, you can always do better. So you should never feel bad about having written something that has, typos, or that you go back and you see that things are wrong, because that was a step. And every book is a stepping stone. Every story is a stepping stone, whether you publish it or not. Everything is a stepping stone. So, this was the first stepping stone. And it has its issues, but it also has so many good things. And what I was saying was, eventually down the line, when she gets to the final book in the series, or even 10 or 15 years from now, 20 years from now, when she's publishing other books, they're gonna be different and they're gonna be better. And I think it's gonna be really cool to have her first book with all of its flaws, all the typos, all the things that they're not perfect, but they're still amazing. It's still amazing. I think it'll be really cool to compare them and be like, you wrote this when you were so young and you published it and so amazing. I think she should really be proud. And she may look at it now and feel kind of discouraged or something, but I don't think she has to. I think she can look at it and see, okay, she made an effort and she did the best that she could. And again, it was amazing. Her best was great. But years down the line, she might improve and she can look back at this and say, that's where I started. This is what started it. And I just think that's cool. So I hope that I articulated that well enough. I don't think I did. I'm trying to say it in a way that, again, is going to be encouraging instead of discouraging. I'm trying to be encouraging about it because I think it's really cool. But yeah, even if I could trade this in for one of the revised versions, I wouldn't. I want this version. I want this version with all of its little flaws. I want to see how she improves in future books. So Lauren, if you watch this, I really hope that I made sense with everything that I said. I hope that you get what I was trying to say with the couple negatives that I had and that last 10 minutes of just kind of ranting about things. I hope you understand where I was coming from and what I was trying to get across. Not trying to discourage you at all. Not trying to put the book down at all. Not at all. I'm trying to lift it up and lift you up as a writer, trying to encourage you. I'm just not always the best at saying what's actually in my head. So, oh my goodness. Yeah, so anyway, I hope that did encourage you. Please don't take anything that I said the wrong way. I think I should end this here before I say something else that's just going to possibly come across wrong. I really hope that what I said didn't come across wrong, but yeah, I'm gonna end this. Also, my voice is kind of a little bit funky, so I think I need to just stop talking. Anyway, so that was my review of the unanswered questions. I also did review it on Amazon and Goodreads, and I finally reviewed Like a Feather on Amazon. Sorry that it took me so long, Naomi. But yeah, so I have reviewed it there as well. You can check out those reviews. They're more succinct and more clear, I think. Overall, I think it was really great. If you like young adult sci-fi with tons of adventure, I definitely recommend this. You'll love it. You know, sci-fi isn't my thing, but for anybody who does like sci-fi, this is an incredible read. So yeah, definitely check it out. And yeah, that's the end of the video. So I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope that I did it justice. I also hope that I can cut it down from half an hour because it doesn't need to be half an hour long. So hopefully I can cut this down quite a bit. But I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like and comment down below what you thought of the book if you read it, what you thought of my review. Do you agree with what I said? Do you disagree? I'd love to like have a conversation in the comments if you want to. Yeah, do you agree with my points about the writing? Is that something that anybody else kind of finds, or is that just some weird quirk of mine? I don't know. I would love to know though, because if it really is just a pet peeve of mine that nobody else cares about, maybe I'll stop pointing that out in my review videos. Probably not, but it's a possibility. So I mean, if you want me to stop talking about the writing, let me know down below and I will consider that. One of these days I will figure out how to end this without being so awkward, but today is not that day. So I'm just gonna go into the outro. I hope to see you in the next one, and have a blessed day, everyone.